Hi everyone, I am Sreekanth. We are discussing programming in C language. The topic is about basics of C programming language. The agenda of this session is about constants in C programming with suitable examples. What is a constant? A constant quantity number that does not vary during the execution of a program is known as a constant. A constant is an explicit data value written by the programmer. Thus, its value known to the compiler at compiling time. Constants are the fixed values that never change during the execution of a program. Constants are the fixed values that never change during the execution of a program. Constants refers to fixed values that the program may not alter during its execution. These fixed values are also called literals. Constants can be of any of the basic data types like an integer constants, a floating point constants, a character constants, a string literal. Constant is a value that should not be altered by the program during normal executions. Like decimal constants are represented by 10, 20, 450 and so on etc. Real or floating point constants are represented 10.3, 20.2, 450.6 so on etc. Octal constants are represented the number first the digit is going to be what starts with 0, 021, 033, 046 so on. These are all octal constants. Hexadecimal constant starts with what 0x2a, 0x7b, 0xaa so on etc. Character constants are enclosed with single quotes like a, single quote b, single quote x so on etc. String constants are enclosed with what the group of characters are enclosed with the double quotes, so like C like Deva, C language, C by Sreekanth and so on. So these are all the constant representations. C constants are basically categorized by two types. One is primary constants, second one is secondary constants. Primary constants again categorized by numeric constants, character constants. In numerical constants again categorized by integer constants, real constants. Character constants again categorized by single character constants, string constants, backslash character constants. In secondary constants, it categorized by array, structure, union, pointer, and enum. Primary constants basically categorized by numeric constants and character constants. Numeric constants are digits. The rules for creating numeric constants are it must have at least one digit. Space, comma, or any other special symbols are not allowed in between the digits. It can be positive or negative. If no sign precedes integer constants, then it is assumed to be by default positive. Again, it classified as integer constants, real constants. Integer constants, it contains a minimum of one digit using decimal number system base 10, octal number system base 8, and hexadecimal system base 16. It does not contain a decimal point. Blank spaces and commas are not allowed within the integer constants. An integer constants can be either positive number or negative value. An integer constant consists of a sequence of digits. It is normally interpreted as a decimal value. A literal integer example like 1984 is always assumed to be of type int type unless it has a capital L or small l suffix as a long type. By default it is int type. If we are explicitly representing capital L or small l suffix as a long type, unsigned using the suffix capital U or small u. Integer constants can be either octal, decimal and hexadecimal. Several examples like here 1, 25, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are all decimal integer constants. Here 1988 suffix with what? Capital L or small l or capital L. All these kind of numbers are what? Long integer constants. If a number suffix with what? Capital U or small u, that represents what? Unsigned integer constants. A number suffix with capital UL, small ul, that represents unsigned long integer constants. If a number suffix with capital LL or small ll, it represents what? Long integer constants. A number is suffixed with what? Capital ULL or small ull, it represents what? Unsigned long integer constants. A number suffixed with the small u or capital U, unsigned integer constant. Capital L or small l represents long integer constants. Capital UL or small ul suffix, that number represents unsigned long integer constants. These are all integer constants. Literal integers can be expressed in decimal, octal and hexadecimal number notations. An integer is taken to be octal if it is preceded by a 0. A number starts with a 0, that number is treated as a octal number. Hexadecimal is preceded by a 0x, 0x, small x or capital X, then that number is treated as a hexadecimal. Decimal constant contains digits from 0 to 9, such as example like 1 1 1 1 2 3 4. These are all decimal constant. By default, what number we are assigning, that comes under what? Decimal constants. Octal constant contains digits from 0 to 7. It is always preceded by what? 0. Octa represents 8. That representation is done 0 to 7 in a number system. A number is starts with or preceded by 0. That numbers are called octal constants, like 0 1 2 0 6 5, so on. Hexadecimal constant contains a digits from 0 to 9 as well as characters from capital A to F or small a to F. Actual numbers are 0 to 9. From 10 it are treated as like A 10, B 11, C 12, D 13, E 14, F 15. 0 to 15. Hexa stands for what? Base 16. On that 0 to 15, 0 to 9 are the numbers, like A to F is nothing but alphabets, either capital A to F or small a to F. Hexadecimal constants are always preceded by what? 0 capital X or 0 small x, like 0x2, 0xbcd, so on, etc. These are all literal integers. Like example, this number is decimal numbers. This number is equivalent to octal. Why? Because the number preceded with what? 0. Equivalent hexadecimal, because 0x starts with 0x or preceded by 0x, either small x or capital X. This number is decimal integer constant. This number is octal integer constant, preceded with what or starts with what? 0. Hexadecimal integer constant starts with what? 0x. The second type is called real constants. Real constants are the quantities which contain fractional part. In integer constants, it won't support fractional part, but in case of real constants, the quantities which contains what? Fractional part, decimal form and exponential form. Real constants are also known as floating point constants. A floating point constant consists of an integer part, a decimal point and an exponential field containing and represented small e or capital E followed by an integer. Both integer and fractional parts are digit sequences. A literal real, example 0.06, is always assumed to be of type double unless it has an small f or capital F suffix. It is treated as a float, or an capital L or small l suffix, it is treated as a long double. So this number indicates what? Floating point, because it is suffixed with capital F. This number is treated as a floating number. Why? Because it's suffixed with small f. This number is treated as a capital L represents what? Long double. This number is treated as a long double suffixed with what? Small l. The rules for creating floating point constants in fractional form: it must have at least one digit, must have a decimal point, it can be positive or negative. The default is positive. Comma, blanks or any other symbols are not allowed. Decimal fractional form, exponential scientific form. Two types, decimal or fractional form. The second one is exponential or scientific form. Decimal or fractional form, the real constants represented in decimal form are confined to the following rule, like the constant must contain a whole number followed by decimal point and a fractional part. It can be either positive or negative. Blank spaces and commas are not allowed within the real constants. The digits before and after the decimal point can be omitted. Example like 310.1 plus 750.25, both are same. By default it is positive. You can also say like minus 800.50 plus 0.30, like 0.30, 200 minus dot 80. These are all comes under what? Decimal fractional form. Exponential scientific form. Exponential form is used to represent the real constants with either too large or too small value. A real constant represented in an exponential form consists of two parts, like mantissa, part appearing before the letter small e or capital E, and exponent, part appearing after small e or capital E. The syntax is like that: mantissa, E, exponent. Rules for creating floating point constants in exponential form: mantissa and exponent must be separated by small e or capital E. Mantissa can be positive or negative. Default is positive. Exponent must have at least one digit. The exponent can be positive or negative. Default is positive. Example, 0.002164 can be 2.164 exponent minus 3. Okay, or 2.164 e, small e, minus 3. So this is the representation of what? This exponential or scientific form. Similarly, 980000000 can be represented as what? 9.8 exponent 9. Okay, this is a positive numbers, 9. Okay, similarly 0.000000986 can be represented as 9.86 exponent minus 7. This is about exponential or scientific form. The next type of constant is called character constants. How to defining character constants in C language? A character constants normally consists of a single character enclosed in a single quote. It represented by what? Always these character constants are enclosed with what? Single quote. It can be represented by a character constant by providing ASCII value of it. As we discussed, every character internally consists what? The value of particular ASCII. That in ASCII table we discussed all signed and unsigned characters, right? Like 0 to 255 characters. For every character internally consists what? ASCII code. Like B, dollar, one, question mark, A, 9. See, these are all enclosed with what? Single quote. It represents what? Character constants. Again, it consists different types: single character constants, string constants, backslash character constants. In case of single character constants, a single character constant is a single digit, alphabet or special symbols that is enclosed within single quotes. A character constants represent a numeric value, like ASCII value of the particular character. It can be used in what? Some arithmetic operations. Maximum of one character is taken within a character constant. Example, these are all the characters enclosed with what? Single quote. String constants. A string constants in a sequence of characters or group of characters enclosed in double quotes. This is a double quotes. Example like Sreekanth. Sreekanth is not a single character. It is a group of characters or collection of characters enclosed with what? Double quotes. A string constant contains sequence of characters like alphabets, digits, special symbols and blank spaces. It also records the address of the first character and depends to the stored sequence an additional character. The last characters in string literals null character represented with what? Backslash 0 to mark the end of the string. In the previous video session I give an example about string, how to write group of string literals, how to assign the group of string literals, and how to print. There I discussed in detail about string representation. But in case of string constant, it enclosed with what? Double quotes. So the end of the character always null character in a string constants to mark the end of the string. It does not have an equivalent numerical value, thus cannot to be used in what? Arithmetic operations. Example like it is enclosed with what? Double quotes. Here I written name backward slash t, address backward slash t, telephone. Like it indicates what? Name, address, telephone, and it is gives some tab space in between. Here backward slash t represents what? Tab separated words. It gives a tab space between name, address. A long string may extend behind a string line, in which case each of the preceding lines should be terminated by a backslash. Example, I want to write a group of string literals, a statement like long statements, long string literals I want to write. Then we can use what? This backslash. Example to show backslash. Again, I'm continuing the string, the use of backslash for like writing a long string. Thank you, Srikanth. See, this is a string literal, but I written a long string literal with what? Backslash separated. We can enclosed with what? Multi-line strings. Here I written multi-line strings enclosed with what? Only one string literal. Okay, only one string literal enclosed with the double quotes. How I separated this one? With the help of backslash. That is used for what? String constants. String constants is a sequence of characters or group of characters enclosed in a double quotes. Special, some specification of different constants like decimal specification is nil. Example 50. Hexadecimal preceded by what? 0x or 0x, small x or capital X. Example like 0x10. Octal, it begins with 0 or preceded by what? 0, 0 and 0. Floating point constants ends with small f or capital F. Suffix like 123.0 f. Character enclosed with what? Single quotes. Like single quotes enclosed with either symbols, alphabets, or any kind of numbers enclosed with what? Single quotes, that represented as a character constants. String enclosed with what? Double quotes. Like double quotes enclosed with group of characters, along with what it consists, maybe a number, special symbols, characters, and so on. So this is about strings are enclosed with double quotes. Unsigned integers ends with what? Capital U or small u, like 37u. Long ends with capital L or small l, 37l. Unsigned long ends with what? UL, capital UL or small UL. So this is about different types of specification of different constants. Backslash character constants. Here the backslash character constants, like a C supports some special backslash character constants that are used in output functions. Okay, so in the previous video session I explained several programs. There I used like a slash n represents what? New line. Slash t represents what? Horizontal tab, giving a tab space between what? One word to another word in the output window of the output messages. Okay, see these backslash character constants represented like backward slash a represents what? Audible, alert, bell. Backward slash b represents backspace. Backward slash f represents form feed. Backward slash n represents new line. Backward slash r represents carriage return. Backward slash t represents horizontal tab. Backward slash v represents vertical tab. Backward slash like a single quote, backward slash double quote, backward slash question mark, backward backslash, and null character. This represents what? Null character. Generally where we are using the string, end of the string, these null characters are going to be used. So in this session we discussed in detail about what is a constant, what are the different types of constants, like primary constants, secondary constants. In case of primary constants, we had discussed in detail about what? Numerical constants. Numerical constants, again integer constants, what are the various representation of integer constants, and literals like a decimal number system base 10, octal number system base 8, hexadecimal number system base 16. And also we discussed how to represent int type, long type, short type, unsigned integral type, unsigned long type, like different representations. Also we discussed in detail about real constants. The real constants, what is the real constants of decimal, fractional form, scientific form representations? Okay, mantissa, e, small e or capital E, exponent value, we discussed in detail. And also we discussed character constants like single character constants, how to represent say single character constants. Always remember, representing single character constants enclosed with what? Single quote. String constants are enclosed with what? Double quotes. And also discussed what? Some backslash character constants. Okay, that's it for today's session. We discussed in detail about what? Constants in C language. Thank you for watching my videos. Thank you all.